The alarm bells rang through the command center of the UHS Defender as Admiral Jake Morrison stared at the massive screens before him. Something big was coming toward Earth, and it was not human. "Sir, we have contact," said Lieutenant Karen Wells. "From her station. Multiple ships approaching from the outer system. They're huge, Admiral. Bigger than anything we've ever built." Jake walked closer to the main display. The alien ships looked like giant metal cities floating in space. Each one was 10 times larger than Earth's biggest warship. There were 12 of them moving slowly toward the inner planets. "Send a message to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have visitors." Captain Ryan Murphy appeared on the communication screen from his scout ship, the UHS Phantom. "Admiral, I've been tracking these ships for 2 hours. They're using technology we don't understand. No heat signatures, no radiation. They're just there." Jake nodded. In his 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. Humanity had spread across 17 star systems, built colonies on dozens of worlds, and fought wars among themselves for centuries. But they had never met anyone else in the galaxy. "Any response to our standard greeting messages?" Jake asked. "Nothing, sir. They're not responding to any frequency we've tried." The waiting continued for 6 long hours. The alien fleet moved with purpose but showed no sign of aggression. They simply traveled toward Earth at a steady pace. Jake ordered all human ships in the system to maintain distance, but stay ready for anything. Then the alien spoke. The voice came through every communication system in the Sol system at the same time. It was deep and mechanical, speaking perfect English through some kind of translation device. "Primitive species of the third planet. I am High Commander Dlathar of the Galactic Empire. You will prepare for immediate integration into our empire. Resistance is pointless. We have done this 3,000 times before." Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had dealt with bullies before, but never ones with spaceships the size of cities. The message continued. "You have 7 of your local days to prepare for surrender. Choose your leaders to meet with us at the coordinates we are transmitting. Do not attempt to flee or fight. Both options will result in your destruction." The communication ended as suddenly as it had begun. The command center fell silent except for the quiet hum of computers and life support systems. "Admiral," said Commander Lisa Harper from Earth. Her face appeared on the screen looking calm despite the situation. "I'm preparing to meet with them. President Stone has given me full authority to negotiate." Jake knew Lisa well. She was Earth's best diplomat, smart and tough. If anyone could handle this situation, it was her. But he also knew that these aliens didn't sound interested in real negotiation. "Be careful, Lisa. These don't sound like the talking type." "I've dealt with difficult people before, Jake, though I admit, never ones from another planet." 3 days later, the meeting took place aboard the neutral space station New Geneva, positioned halfway between Earth and the alien fleet. Jake watched from the Defender as Lisa's small diplomatic ship docked with the station. The aliens arrived in a shuttle that looked like it was made of liquid metal. High Commander Zekthar was tall and thin with gray skin and 4 arms. 2 other aliens accompanied him, both carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Lisa sat across from them in the station's main conference room, her aide Captain Danny Price taking notes beside her. The conversation was broadcast to every human ship and colony in the system. "Your species will join the Empire as a labor class," Zekthar said without any greeting. "You will work in our mines and factories. Your military will be dissolved. Your governments will be replaced by imperial administrators. This is how it works." Lisa folded her hands on the table. "High Commander, we appreciate your offer, but we have a counter-proposal." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Counter-proposal? You amuse me, human. Your species has primitive technology and no understanding of galactic politics. You have nothing to offer, We offer peaceful coexistence, Lisa said calmly. Trade agreements, cultural exchange, mutual defense pacts. We could be allies instead of master and slave. Zekthar's forearms moved in what seemed like dismissal. We do not make allies with inferior species. We have conquered civilizations. Across this galaxy for 10,000 years. Every species learns to serve the Empire eventually. Jake watched Lisa's face on the screen. She was still calm, but he could see the steel in her eyes. He had seen that look before, usually right before she destroyed someone in negotiations. High Commander, we've studied your Empire's history through intercepted communications, Lisa said. You've conquered species that never fought back effectively. We're different. Different how? Zekthar asked, sounding bored. Lisa stood up slowly. We've spent our entire existence at war with each other. For thousands of years, humans have been perfecting the art of destruction. We've had world wars that killed millions. We've created weapons that could destroy entire planets. We've studied strategy and tactics since before we could write. The alien's expression didn't change, but he leaned forward slightly. Every human child learns about famous battles and great generals, Lisa continued. We teach our young about sacrifice and courage under fire. We've never had peace, High Commander. War is what we know best. Threats from primitives, Zekthar sighed, but his voice had less certainty than before. This is not a threat, Lisa replied. This is your only warning. Leave us in peace or face the consequences. We know about your other conquests. You fight species that surrender after seeing your big ships and powerful weapons. But we won't surrender. We'll fight, and we're very good at it. Captain Price handed Lisa a data pad. She placed it on the table and activated it. Images appeared in the air above the device, showing human military capabilities. These are some of our weapons, Lisa said as pictures of missiles, fighters, and warships appeared. We have planet-killer bombs, ships that can outrun anything in your fleet, and soldiers trained from childhood to never give up. Zekthar looked at the images with more interest now. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Maybe, Lisa agreed, but technology isn't everything. You want to know what we call a fight against impossible odds? Tuesday, Jake smiled despite the tension. Lisa was doing what she did best, turning weakness into strength through pure confidence. Your empire conquers species that have never really fought a war, Lisa continued. You're used to enemies who see your big ships and give up. We see your big ships and start planning how to blow them up. The room was quiet for a long moment. Zekthar spoke with his companions in their own language, a series of clicks and whistles that the translators couldn't handle. Finally, the alien commander turned back to Lisa. You have 7 days to surrender, as stated. If you do not, we will demonstrate why 3,000 species chose to serve rather than die. Lisa stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the alien fleet. High Commander, let me ask you something. In all your conquests, how many species warned you exactly what would happen if you attacked them? Warning us? None would dare. That's because they were afraid, Lisa said, turning back to face him. We're not afraid. We're angry. There's a big difference. The meeting ended with no agreement. As Zekthar prepared to leave, Lisa delivered her final message. High Commander, when you go back to your fleet, remember this conversation. Remember that we offered you peace. Remember that we warned you what would happen if you chose war instead. The alien stopped at the doorway. And what exactly will happen, human? Lisa's smile was cold as winter. You'll find out why we're the only species in this galaxy that has never been conquered. As the alien shuttle departed, Jake opened a communication channel to Lisa. Think they'll listen? No, Lisa replied. Their arrogance won't let them. They think we're just another primitive species that will break when they show their strength. And we're not? Lisa's voice was steady and sure. Jake, we're humans. We don't break. We break other things. High Commander Zekthar stood before the massive golden throne in the center of Dominion Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Empire. Supreme Chancellor Veximer looked down at him with 6 glowing eyes, his massive form barely fitting on the ancient seat of power. "Tell me about these humans," Veximer said, his voice echoing through the great hall like thunder. Zekthar kept his head bowed. "They are primitives, Chancellor. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They live on one small world and a few scattered colonies, but they refuse to surrender." "Refuse?" Veximer leaned forward, his claws scraping against the metal armrests of his throne. "No species refuses the Empire." "What did they say?" "They claimed they would fight us. They said they were different from other species because they have always been at war with each other." The other members of the War Council stood around the throne room, representatives from dozens of conquered worlds. All of them had surrendered, without major resistance when the Empire arrived at their planets. The thought of anyone actually choosing to fight seemed impossible to them. "Chancellor," said Advisor Nexvel, a thin creature with blue skin, "perhaps we should send a larger fleet. The humans might need more convincing than usual." Veximer waved one of his massive hands. "No, we do not change our methods for primitives. High Commander Zekthar, you will return with Battle Fleet Omega. 50 ships should be more than enough to make them understand." "And if they still refuse to surrender?" Zekthar asked. "Then you will destroy their military and take control of their worlds. We have done this before." Admiral Cretan received his orders 3 days later. He was a veteran commander who had overseen the conquest of 47 different species. His Battle Fleet Omega had never failed to complete a mission. "Humans," he said to his bridge crew as they prepared to leave for the Sol system. "I have read the reports. They have small ships, basic weapons, and no experience fighting anyone but themselves. This will be simple." Captain Mordix, his second in command, nodded in agreement. "How long do you think it will take, Admiral?" "1 day to arrive, 1 day to demonstrate our power, and 1 day to accept their surrender. We should be home within a week." The Imperial fleet moved through space toward Earth, 50 massive warships, each capable of destroying entire cities. They had used this same formation hundreds of times before, and it had never failed to terrify their enemies into submission. Back on Earth, Colonel Danny Price watched the approaching enemy fleet from his command post on Mars, the planet's defense. Grid had been upgraded over the past week, but he knew it wouldn't be enough against 50 Imperial ships. "Sir," said Lieutenant Tony Martinez from his scanner station, "they're moving slowly, really slowly." "It's like they want us to see them coming," Danny nodded. "That's exactly what they want. They're trying to scare us into giving up before the fighting starts." President Rebecca Stone called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from all the human colonies gathered in the Great Hall, their faces grim but determined. "Citizens of Earth and the colonies," President Stone began, "the Empire has sent a war fleet to our system. They expect us to surrender like every other species they've conquered." A murmur went through the assembly. Some voices called for negotiation, others for immediate military action. "I've spoken with our military commanders," the president continued. "Admiral Morrison believes we can fight them. Commander Harper thinks we should try one last diplomatic solution. But the choice is ours to make together." Representative Bill Murphy from the Mars colony stood up. "Madam President, what happens if we surrender? What kind of life would our children have as slaves? According to our intelligence, conquered species work in mines and factories. Their governments are dissolved. Their military forces are eliminated. They become property of the Empire. And if we fight?" asked Representative Grace Kelly from the Europa Station. "We might lose, we might all die. But we'll die as free humans, not as slaves." The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the vote was clear. every representative voted for war. Not one human colony was willing to accept slavery. Admiral Creton's fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system and began their standard intimidation display. They formed a perfect line, their massive ships gleaming in the light of Earth's sun. "Begin the demonstration," Admiral Creton ordered. The Imperial ships fired their plasma cannons at several large asteroids, completely destroying them in brilliant explosions. The light could be seen from Earth, Mars, and all the outer colonies. "Now, broadcast the surrender demand," the Admiral said. The message went out to every human world at the same time. Admiral Creton's image appeared on screens across the solar system, his reptilian features cold and threatening. "Humans of the Sol system, you have witnessed the power of the Galactic Empire. Your asteroids are gone. Your worlds could be next. You have one day to surrender unconditionally or face complete destruction." On Earth, President Stone addressed the planet from her office. "They want us to be afraid. They want us to kneel like every other species they've met. But we are not every other species. We are human." Lieutenant Karen Wells sat in her fighter cockpit on the lunar base New Armstrong, checking her weapons systems. Around her, 200 other pilots prepared for what might be humanity's last battle. "Listen up, people," said Squadron Leader Amy Foster over the communication system. "We all know what we're facing. Their ships are bigger, their weapons are stronger, and they have more experience. But they've never fought humans before." The pilots cheered despite the odds against them. Karen felt her heart beating fast, but she wasn't afraid. She was angry. These aliens thought they could just show up and take over her home. "Remember your training," Amy continued. "Hit and run tactics. Never try to face them head on. Use your speed and size to get in close, then get out fast. Make every shot count." On Mars, Colonel Price coordinated with defense commanders across the system. Earth's orbital platforms were armed and ready. The asteroid belt miners had rigged their equipment to work as weapons. Even the research stations in the outer system were prepared to fight. "Sir," said Major Chris Taylor, "we're getting reports from our long-range scouts. The alien fleet is advancing toward Earth. They're not in any hurry." "Good," Danny replied. "Let them take their time. The longer they wait, the more ready we'll be." Admiral Morrison aboard the UHS Defender studied the enemy formation through his tactical displays. The Imperial ships were moving in a straight line, no defensive pattern, no scouts ahead or behind. "They're not even trying to protect themselves," he said to his bridge crew. "They think we're going to surrender before the shooting starts." Captain Steve Rogers, commanding the carrier USS Freedom, spoke over the communication link. "Admiral, my pilots are ready. Just give us the word." "Not yet, Steve. Let them get closer. Let them think we're scared." Admiral Creton watched the human worlds through his ship's sensors. He could see their military ships moving into position, but their formation looked chaotic and desperate. "Sir," said Captain Mordex, "they appear to be preparing for battle. Should we adjust our approach?" "No, this is what they all do. They make a show of resistance, fire a few shots, then surrender when they realize how outmatched they are." The Imperial fleet continued its slow advance toward Earth. They had done this so many times that it felt routine. Show overwhelming force, destroy a few targets, accept surrender. Simple and effective, but as they moved deeper into the Sol system, Admiral Creton began to notice something different. The humans weren't sending desperate messages begging for mercy. They weren't trying to negotiate. They were just waiting. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the human fleet. Put it on screen." Admiral Morrison's face appeared, calm and confident. "Admiral Creton, this is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Defense Fleet. You have one chance to turn around and leave our system peacefully." Creton laughed. "Human, you are about to be destroyed. Surrender now and your species will be allowed to live as workers in the Empire. I don't think so, Morrison replied. You see, Admiral, you made a mistake. You assumed we were like all the other species you've conquered. We're not. Your threats mean nothing. We have 50 ships to your 20, Morrison smiled. Admiral, you're about to learn why humans have never been conquered by anyone, not even each other. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Cretan staring at a blank screen. For the first time in his career, he felt a small flicker of doubt. Continue. The advance, he ordered. Prepare all weapons. These humans need to learn their place. The Battle of Luna began at exactly 0800 Earth Standard Time. Admiral Cretan's Imperial fleet had reached the moon's orbit, expecting the humans to surrender at the sight of their overwhelming firepower. Instead, they found something no Imperial commander had ever faced before. Admiral Morrison's human fleet didn't line up for traditional battle formation. The 20 human ships scattered in all directions like startled birds, then regrouped in. Small hunting packs that moved with deadly purpose. What are they doing? Captain Mordix asked from the bridge of the Imperial flagship. This is not how space battles are fought. Admiral Cretan watched the tactical display with growing confusion. In every conquest he had overseen, enemy fleets either surrendered immediately or lined up for honorable defeat. These humans were doing neither. Sir, the weapons officer reported, the human ships are refusing to engage us directly. They keep moving away when we target them. Then follow them and destroy them, Cretan ordered. But as soon as the Imperial ships began pursuing one group of human vessels, another group attacked from behind. Captain Steve Rogers led his carrier UHS Freedom in a lightning strike against the rear of the Imperial formation. Launch all fighters, Steve commanded. Hit them fast and get out. 200 human fighters swarmed out of the Freedom's launch. Bays like angry wasps. They were tiny compared to the massive Imperial ships, but they moved with incredible speed and precision. Lieutenant Karen Wells dove her fighter toward the nearest Imperial cruiser. Her targeting computer locked onto the ship's engine section. The alien vessel's defensive guns tracked her approach, but she twisted and rolled through their fire like she was dancing. Fox 3, she called out, launching her missiles at point-blank range before spinning away from the explosion. The Imperial cruiser shuddered as human missiles found weak points in its armor. Across the battlefield, dozens of other human pilots performed the same deadly dance, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Admiral Cretan watched in shock as his flagship's damage reports came in. How are they getting through our shields? Sir, they're not trying to break through, his tactical officer explained. They're finding weak spots we didn't know existed. Places where the shield coverage overlaps poorly. Captain Amy Foster led Squadron 7 in a coordinated attack on the Imperial dreadnought Dominance. Her 12 fighters came from 6 different directions at once, forcing the alien gunners to split their fire. Remember, people, she called over the communication system, we're not trying to destroy these ships. We're trying to cripple them. Hit the engines, weapons, and sensors. Make them helpless. The human fighters struck like surgical instruments, each pilot targeting specific systems on the massive alien vessels. Within minutes, 3 Imperial ships were drifting powerless, their engines destroyed and weapons offline. This is impossible. Admiral Cretan said, their ships are tiny. Their weapons are primitive, but the impossible was happening. The human pilots flew their small fighters with a skill that defied belief. They performed maneuvers that should have killed them, taking risks that no sane pilot would attempt. Commander Nicole Garcia's voice came over the communication system from her assault transport. Falcon Team, we have a boarding opportunity. The Imperial cruiser Conquest has lost its shields. Boarding? Captain Mordex stared at the tactical display. They cannot be serious. But they were. Garcia's transport ship, protected by a screen of human fighters, raced toward the crippled Imperial vessel. The transport's hull was designed to cut through enemy armor, and it slammed into the Conquest side like a giant bullet. "Go, go, go!" Garcia shouted as her Marine teams poured through the breach into the alien ship. The Imperial crew had never faced boarding actions before. Their empire conquered through superior firepower and intimidation, not close combat. The human Marines moved through the alien corridors like deadly shadows, taking control of key systems within minutes. "Engineering secured," reported Sergeant Bill Murphy over Garcia's headset. "Their power systems are completely different from ours, but I think we can figure them out." "Communications secured," called Corporal Lisa Stone from another part of the ship. "I'm downloading their database now." Within 30 minutes, the Imperial cruiser Conquest was under human control. Its weapons turned against its former allies, striking other Imperial ships with their own technology. "Admiral," Cretan felt panic rising in his chest as he watched the impossible battle unfold. "Send a message to Dominion Prime. Request immediate reinforcements." "Sir," his communications officer said, "the humans are jamming our long-range systems. I cannot get a message through." Captain Tony Martinez coordinated the defense of Mars as Imperial ships broke away from the main battle to attack the human colonies. But the Red Planet was ready for them. "Fire control, this is Martinez. Target the lead Imperial destroyer. All defense platforms, concentrate fire." Mars had been preparing for this moment for weeks. Hidden weapon platforms throughout the asteroid belt opened fire simultaneously, catching the Imperial ships in a crossfire they hadn't expected. The aliens had assumed human colonies would be helpless, defended by only a few patrol ships. Instead, they found every asteroid, space station, and orbital facility armed with weapons and crewed by people determined to fight. "Sir," Lieutenant Alex Parker reported from his reconnaissance ship, "the Imperial fleet is trying to regroup. Near Jupiter, they're pulling back from Earth and Mars." Admiral Morrison smiled grimly as he received the report. "Let them regroup. Captain Rogers, prepare for Phase 2. "Phase 2, sir? We're going to show them what happens when humans get serious about fighting." The human fleet regrouped as well, but unlike the confused Imperial forces, they moved with practiced efficiency. Every ship knew its role. Every captain understood the plan. Dr. Helen Foster's research teams had been working around the clock since the battle began. "Admiral Morrison," she reported from her laboratory ship, "we've analyzed the captured Imperial technology. Their shields work on a rotating frequency pattern. We can adapt our weapons to penetrate them. How long do you need?" "Give me 2 hours, and every human ship will have shield-penetrating weapons." While Dr. Foster's teams worked their technological magic, Captain Danny Price led salvage operations to recover damaged Imperial vessels. The humans treated their enemies' advanced technology like a puzzle to be solved. "Look at this," said engineer Rita Stone as she examined an Imperial energy weapon. "Their power systems are incredibly inefficient. We could improve this design by at least 30%. The Imperial fleet, meanwhile, struggled to understand what had happened to them. Admiral Cretan called his surviving ship commanders together for an emergency meeting. "How did we lose 6 ships to an inferior enemy?" he demanded. Captain Turvo of the cruiser Dominator shook his head. "Sir, they do not fight like any species we have encountered. They use tactics we have never seen. Their pilots perform maneuvers that should be impossible." "And the boarding actions," added Captain Veltar. "Who boards enemy ships in the middle of a space battle?" "It is madness. Madness that worked," Cretan said bitterly. "They captured the Conquest and turned it against us. Now they have access to our technology and our databases." The Imperial commanders had spent their careers conquering species that fought predictably. Line up ships, exchange fire, accept surrender when losses became too heavy. The humans threw out every rule of civilized warfare. "Sir," the fleet intelligence officer reported, "we have intercepted human communications. They are calling this engagement a minor skirmish and are preparing for what they term real fighting." Minor skirmish? Cretan felt his blood turn cold. "We lost 6 ships. According to their communications, Admiral Morrison is requesting permission to begin unrestricted warfare against our forces." The Imperial commanders looked at each other with growing fear. If this was just a minor skirmish, what would real fighting look like? Captain Larry Hill's cyber warfare specialists had spent the battle hacking Imperial communication systems. "Admiral Morrison," he reported, "I have access to their fleet communications. They're scared, sir, really scared." "Good," Morrison replied. "Fear makes people make mistakes, and we're going to take advantage of every mistake they make." The Battle of Luna ended with the Imperial fleet in full retreat toward the outer system. They had arrived expecting easy conquest and instead found themselves fighting for survival against an enemy unlike anything they had ever faced. "Admiral," Cretan sent his desperate message to Dominion Prime as soon as his communications were restored. "Supreme Chancellor, request immediate reinforcements. The humans ... they fight like demons. This is not a normal conquest, this is war." But by then, it was too late. The humans had tasted victory, and they were hungry for more. Supreme Chancellor Veximer stood in the emergency session of the Imperial War Council, his massive form trembling with rage. The Great Hall on Dominion Prime had never seen such chaos. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy, each one worse than the last. "Explain to me," Veximer roared, "how a primitive species destroyed half of Battle Fleet Omega in a single engagement." High Commander Zekthar kept his head low. "Chancellor, the humans fight differently than any species we have encountered. They use tactics that make no sense." "No sense?" Advisor Nexval pulled up holographic displays showing the battle reports. "They captured our ships and turned them against us. They hacked our communications. They performed boarding actions in the middle of space combat. This is not random behavior. This is advanced military strategy." The War Council fell silent. For 10,000 years, the Empire had conquered species through overwhelming force and technological superiority. No one had ever successfully resisted their methods. "Sir," said General Karlax, "we have received reports from 17 sectors. Human ships have been spotted attacking our supply lines. They are hitting targets hundreds of light years from their home system." Veximer's 6 eyes widened. "Impossible. They do not have the ships or the range for such operations. They are using captured Imperial vessels, Chancellor. Our own ships are being used against us." The truth was even worse than the Empire realized. General Patricia Wright had taken command of the newly formed Human Expeditionary Force, leading raids deep into Imperial territory using a mixture of human and captured alien technology. "Target confirmed," Wright said from the bridge of the captured Imperial cruiser Liberation. "Imperial Supply Depot, Sector 7 Alpha. 43 enslaved species working the mining operations. Captain Joey Rodriguez commanding the human destroyer. UHS Vengeance moved his ship into position. General, we have confirmed life signs. Looks like about 10,000 slaves down there." "Then we free them," Wright said simply. "All ships, begin the liberation operation." The Imperial garrison at Sector 7 Alpha had never faced an attack before. The depot was deep inside Empire space, considered completely safe. When human ships appeared on their sensors, the garrison commander thought it was a mistake. "Identify yourselves," came the transmission from the planet's surface. "You are in restricted Imperial space." General Wright responded personally. "This is General Patricia Wright of the Human Liberation Force. You are holding innocent beings in slavery. Release them immediately or face the consequences." The garrison commander laughed. "Human? Impossible. Humans are primitive creatures from the outer rim. They do not have ships capable of reaching this sector. We do now, Wright replied. Last chance. Free the slaves or we will free them ourselves. The attack began with precision strikes on the garrison's defenses. Human fighters, now equipped with captured Imperial weapons, disabled the planet's shield generators and orbital platforms within minutes. Commander Larry Hill's cyber warfare teams had spent weeks studying Imperial computer systems. They hacked into the planet's networks, shutting down security systems, and opening the doors to the slave quarters. All slaves, this is the Human Liberation Force. Wright broadcast on all frequencies. Stay in your quarters, we are coming to free you. The ground assault was led by Commander RThe Stone and her Marine Battalion. They had studied Imperial base layouts from captured data, and they moved through the facility like they had built it themselves. Resistance is light, Stone reported as her team secured the main complex. The garrison troops are surrendering without much of a fight. The real surprise came when the freed slaves saw their rescuers. Most had never heard of humans before. They had lived their entire lives believing the Empire was all-powerful and resistance was impossible. Tavara, a Zilani female who had worked in the mines for 15 years, stared at the human soldiers in amazement. You came from outside the Empire? How is this possible? We're humans, Stone explained simply. We don't believe in slavery. We don't believe anyone should live in chains. Within hours, the Sector 7 Alpha Depot was under human control. The freed slaves were given a choice: return to their home worlds or join the human forces in liberating others. Most chose to fight. The news of the liberation spread like wildfire through Imperial communication networks. For the first time in galactic history, slaves were being freed and their oppressors defeated. Captain Alex Parker commanded a reconnaissance squadron that shadowed Imperial fleet movements throughout the sector. His ships, invisible to Imperial sensors thanks to captured cloaking technology, gathered intelligence on enemy positions. Admiral Morrison, Parker reported, the Empire is pulling ships from 12 different sectors to form a new battle fleet. They're calling it Battle Fleet Alpha. Morrison studied the intelligence reports from his command center on the UHS Defender. How many ships? 100 capital ships, sir. Their best crews, their most advanced technology. It looks like they're planning to end this war with overwhelming force. Let them come, Morrison said. We'll be ready. But the human preparations went far beyond simple military readiness. Dr. Helen Foster's research teams had been working with captured Imperial technology for months, improving and adapting it for human use. Admiral, Foster reported from her laboratory, we have successfully reverse-engineered their shield technology, their plasma weapons, and their faster-than-light communications. But we've made them better. How much better? Our shields are 40% more efficient. Our weapons have twice the range of Imperial equivalents. And our communication systems can punch through their jamming like it doesn't exist. The liberated alien species proved to be valuable allies. The Zilani had excellent engineering skills. The Corvan were natural fighters. The Nexari understood Imperial logistics better than anyone. Tavara, now serving as an engineering advisor, worked with human technicians to improve their ship designs. The Imperial ships are built for intimidation, she explained. They are large and impressive, but not efficient. Human ships are built for fighting. Much better design. Captain Bill Murphy commanded the newly formed Allied fleet composed of liberated aliens flying human-designed ships. Admiral Morrison, the Allied fleet is ready for deployment. 50 ships crewed by species that have every reason to hate the Empire. How are they in combat? Motivated, sir. Very motivated. They fight like they have nothing to lose because most of them actually don't. The Empire's response was predictable but desperate. Supreme Chancellor Veximer authorized the use of Battle Fleet Alpha under the command of Admiral Toronex the Conqueror, the Empire's most experienced military leader. "Admiral Toronex," Veximer said during the private briefing, "you have never failed to conquer a world. Do not let these humans be your first failure." Toronex was a massive reptilian creature with scars from 100 battles. He had personally overseen the conquest of 40 different species. "Chancellor, I have studied the human tactics. They rely on surprise and unconventional methods. Battle Fleet Alpha will overwhelm them with pure firepower. And if they try their boarding actions or hacking attempts, we are prepared. Every ship has enhanced security. Every system has multiple backups. These humans will face the full might of the Empire's finest warriors." But as Battle Fleet Alpha assembled at the staging area near Proxima Station, intelligence reports began arriving that changed everything. The humans weren't just defending their home system anymore. They were actively conquering Imperial territory. "Sir," reported Captain Valinix, "the humans have liberated 23 worlds in the past month. They are freeing slaves and recruiting them into their forces. Their fleet is growing larger every day." Admiral Toronex studied the tactical displays with growing concern. This was not how conquests were supposed to work. The Empire was losing territory to a species they had tried to enslave. "Sir," his intelligence officer continued, "there are reports of slave revolts on 47 worlds. The freed species are teaching others how to resist Imperial control." "How is this possible?" "The humans are not just fighting us, Admiral. They are teaching others to fight us. Every world they liberate becomes a training ground for resistance." General Wright's liberation campaigns had sparked something the Empire had never faced before: coordinated resistance across multiple sectors. Species that had served the Empire for centuries were suddenly remembering what freedom felt like. On the mining world of Kepler-7, Coven workers had overthrown their Imperial overseers without any human assistance. They had simply heard about the liberations and decided to free themselves. "This is spreading beyond our ability to contain," reported General Karlex to the War Council. "We have rebellion on 60 worlds and growing. The humans have shown other species that the Empire can be defeated." Supreme Chancellor Veximer paced the throne room like a caged animal. "Deploy Battle Fleet Alpha immediately. End this before it spreads further." "Sir," Advisor Nexval said carefully, "perhaps we should consider negotiating with the humans. They have proven to be more dangerous than we anticipated." Veximer turned on his advisor with fury. "Negotiate? The Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. We conquer them or we destroy them." But as Battle Fleet Alpha prepared for departure, both sides knew this would be the decisive battle. If the Empire won, the Battle of Proxima Station would be remembered as the day the Galactic Empire fell. Admiral Toronex the Conqueror led 100 of the Empire's finest warships toward what he believed would be an easy victory over primitive humans. He was wrong. Admiral Morrison waited at Proxima Station with a fleet that looked nothing like the small human force that had fought at Luna months earlier. 70 human ships flew alongside 50 vessels crewed by liberated species. Each ship bristled with weapons that combined human engineering with captured Imperial technology. "Admiral Toronex," Morrison broadcast as the two fleets approached each other, "this is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Human Liberation Fleet. You have one last chance to surrender and save your crews." On the Imperial flagship Eternal Glory, Toronex laughed at the human's message. "Primitive human, you face the finest warriors in the galaxy. Your little rebellion ends today." "Admiral," Morrison replied calmly, "you're about to learn why we gave you that warning months ago. You should have listened." The battle began with Admiral Toronex ordering a traditional Imperial assault. His ships formed a massive line and advanced slowly, just as they had done in 1,000 previous conquests. But the humans were no longer The same species that had barely survived the first Imperial attack. Captain Bill Murphy led the combined human and allied fighter squadrons in the opening strike. Over 500 small craft swarmed toward the Imperial line like a cloud of deadly insects. "All squadrons, remember your training," Murphy called over the communication system. "Hit their weak points, cripple their engines and weapons. Show them what we've learned." The human pilots had months of experience fighting Imperial ships. They knew every weakness, every blind spot, every system vulnerable to precise strikes. The liberated alien pilots fought with fury born from years of slavery and oppression. Lieutenant Karen Wells, now a squadron commander, led her Zilani wingman Tkal in a coordinated attack on the Imperial dreadnought Dominator. "Tkal, take the port engine cluster. I'll hit the starboard weapons array." "Understood, Karen. For freedom." The two fighters dove toward the massive enemy ship, weaving through defensive fire with practiced skill. Their missiles struck simultaneously, crippling the dreadnought's ability to maneuver or fight effectively. Admiral Torinex watched in growing horror as his seemingly unstoppable fleet was torn apart by fighters no larger than escape pods. "How are they penetrating our defenses so easily?" "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "they know exactly where to hit us. It's like they've studied our ships for years." "Because we have," came a new voice over the communication system. Commander Nicole Garcia's assault transports were racing toward the Imperial flagship, protected by screens of human and allied fighters. "Impossible," Torinex said. "No one can board the Eternal Glory in the middle of a battle." But Garcia's teams had perfected boarding actions through months of practice. Her transport slammed into the flagship's hull, cutting through armor like it was paper. Within minutes, human Marines were fighting their way through the ship's corridors. "Bridge secured," Garcia reported 15 minutes later. "Admiral Torinex is our prisoner." The sight of their greatest admiral in human custody broke the spirit of the Imperial fleet. Ship after ship began surrendering as news spread through their communication networks. Captain Steve Rogers, commanding the UHS Freedom, accepted the surrender of 3 Imperial cruisers simultaneously. "Admiral Morrison, we have 17 enemy ships requesting to surrender. What are your orders?" "Accept their surrender," Morrison replied, "but keep them under guard. Some of these crews might want to join our cause." The battle was turning into a rout. Imperial ships that had never faced real resistance found themselves overwhelmed by enemies who fought with skill, determination, and the fury of the oppressed. Dr. Helen Foster's technological improvements proved decisive. Human shields absorbed Imperial fire, while human weapons cut through enemy defenses. The captured Imperial ships fighting alongside humans performed better than they ever had under alien command. "Sir," reported Captain Alex Parker from his reconnaissance. "Ship, the remaining Imperial forces are trying to retreat. They're breaking formation and running." "Let them go," Morrison ordered. "But shadow them. I want to know where they're going." The retreat became a disaster for the Empire. Human pursuit squadrons harassed the fleeing ships, capturing some and destroying others. Of the 100 ships that had attacked Proxima Station, only 37 escaped. Admiral Torinex sat in the human holding cell aboard the UHS Defender, staring at the metal walls in disbelief. In his centuries of military service, he had never been defeated, never been captured, never even considered the possibility of losing. Admiral Morrison visited him personally. "Admiral Torinex, I want you to understand something. This didn't have to happen. We offered your empire peaceful coexistence. You chose war instead. Your species is impossible," Torinex said bitterly. "You fight like you have nothing to lose." "We fight like we have everything to protect," Morrison corrected. "Our freedom, our families, our way of life. That's what you were trying to take from us." The news of the Empire's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than Imperial ships could carry it. On hundreds of worlds, enslaved species rose up against their oppressors. The human example had shown them that resistance was possible. President Rebecca Stone addressed the galaxy from the captured Imperial fortress world of Alpha Prime. The ceremony was broadcast to every planet in known space. Citizens of the galaxy, she began. The age of imperial slavery is over. Today, we establish the Galactic Liberation Council, dedicated to the freedom and self-determination of all species. Behind her stood representatives from dozens of newly liberated worlds. Former slaves now stood as equals, united in their determination to prevent the Empire's return. We did not seek this war, President Stone continued. We offered peace and were answered with threats of slavery. But now that we have won, we offer something the Empire never could: true freedom for all. Supreme Chancellor Veximer received the reports of his Empire's collapse in the throne room of Dominion Prime. Battlefleet Alpha destroyed. Admiral Toronex captured. Rebellion spreading across 60 sectors. Chancellor, Advisor Nexval said carefully, "Perhaps it is time to consider terms of surrender." Veximer's rage had burned itself out, leaving only cold fear. What terms could we possibly offer? They have defeated our finest fleet and captured our best admiral. The humans are offering amnesty to any Imperial forces that surrender peacefully. They seem more interested in liberation than revenge. The formal surrender ceremony took place aboard the UHS Defender with representatives from across the galaxy in attendance. Supreme Chancellor Veximer, accompanied by what remained of the Imperial government, signed the Articles of Surrender. The Galactic Empire formally surrenders to the Human Liberation Fleet and its allies, Morrison read from the document. All enslaved species are to be freed immediately. All Imperial military forces are to stand down. The right of all species to self-determination is recognized and protected. Commander Lisa Harper, now serving as humanity's first galactic ambassador, established the new laws that would govern the galaxy. No species may enslave another. All beings have the right to defend themselves. Aggressive conquest will be met with unified resistance. The transformation was remarkable. Worlds that had lived under imperial oppression for centuries became thriving democracies within years. Species that had forgotten their own cultures rediscovered their heritage. The galaxy bloomed with diversity and freedom. 5 years after the war's end, Captain Amy Foster patrolled the former Imperial Core worlds in her ship UHS Liberty. The region that had once been the center of galactic oppression was now a peaceful trading hub where dozens of species worked together as equals. Captain, her communications officer reported, "We're receiving a priority message from Admiral Morrison." Morrison's face appeared on the screen, and Foster could see the concern in his expression. "Amy, we have a situation. Long-range scouts have detected a new alien empire approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Another conquest-minded species? It appears so. They're broadcasting demands for the surrender of all inferior species in this galaxy. They claim to have conquered 50 other galaxies." Foster smiled grimly. "Admiral, do they know about humans?" "Not yet. But they're about to learn." The message from the new empire was arrogant and familiar. They demanded immediate surrender from all species in the galaxy, threatening total destruction for any who resisted. Admiral Morrison, now Fleet Commander of the Galactic Defense Force, prepared humanity's response. The galaxy had learned much in 5 years of freedom. Dozens of species had formed their own defense fleets, trained by human advisors and equipped with the latest technology. "This is Fleet Commander Morrison of the Galactic Defense Force," he broadcast to the approaching alien empire. "You are entering a galaxy of free species under the protection of the Human Liberation Fleet and our allies. We demand immediate surrender," came the reply. Your primitive civilizations cannot stand against our might. Morrison's response was calm and confident. Unknown Empire, you are making the same mistake the last conquerors made. This is your only warning. Leave this galaxy in peace, or face the consequences.